דף יוד, ויאמר השם, הנם אחד ושפה אחת לכולם, ואתה לא יבצר מהם כל אשר יזמו לעשות. So this mimer is about the Babylon Tower.
Is this the fact that every country in the world uses the same computer program? Is that called the world is speaking one language? Is Word called one language?
Which is the one computer language?
Asking you.
No, we always use a binary, hexadecimal.
More or less, right? Everybody uses Word. Is that one language?
Yeah,
No,
we could say that.
So we're going to have the Tower of Babel in a minute.
So the first time I taught this mimer was in 1999.
Yeah.
And I connected it with the Bug 2000 thing.
Yeah.
And I said that nothing's going to happen. From this mimer it comes out that nothing's going to happen.
Okay.
C2K.
Why? C2K. Okay. So what happened there? So the whole question he's going to ask is, why is it so terrible for there to be unity? Because basically that's what there was.
There's only unity.
So Chazal say that the unity was against Hashem, but it doesn't say that anywhere. The Pshat of the Torah doesn't say that.
The Malbim says that they were building a space rocket.
That's not the Malbim, that's the Tifilti Yisrael. It doesn't matter. He was the first. It doesn't matter.
They were building a rocket to fly to the moon.
Okay. Anyway, all
wage war.
Yeah, war. So they were whatever they were.
What did you say it was?
The Tifilti Yisrael brings it. He's the one who's famously quoted with this interpretation. So it doesn't matter. These are all anachronistic interpretations. That's not how you learn Pnimius. And you don't say, "Oh, they were doing what we're finally beginning to do." They didn't know how to do what we did.
But the whole pasuk doesn't make sense.
The real question here is
all people speaking the same language. What do you expect? The Kodesh Baruch Hu created them.
There was only one language.
They were all speaking Hebrew. That was the only language.
Right.
So what's wrong with that?
Exactly. So first of all, you would say, by nature, they were all supposed to be speaking the same language. What's the big deal? And if they're all speaking the same language, and why is it so bad that they have a common goal? What's wrong with that? Again, according to the Pshat of the Torah, they weren't waging war, they weren't doing avodah zarah, they weren't doing anything. The whole problem was v'naseh lanu shem, and we'll make for us a name. And what do you mean by a name? They said the name means some kind of big sign at the top of this tower, so everybody would know that this is the center of the world, and we wouldn't scatter. Scatter would mean not that people wouldn't go far away, because they, as a hunting society, or gathering society, they all went very far away. The point was that they would remain connected.
They've all got the same internet site.
They'll all get the what?
Same internet site.
Yeah. So what's so wrong with that? And now you would ask the question, maybe we have the same thing. Maybe we're going in the same direction because we have one internet, we have one this, we have one that. Maybe it's the same thing. So this mimer is about, what does unity mean? What does unity really mean? Okay? Okay. So he says like this, how is it even possible that they could do something against Hashem's will? I'm not talking about that one person can do something. I'm not talking about that one nation could do something. I think the entire planet would do something against Hashem's will, what Hashem doesn't have any say here. It's a question.
How many people are you talking about?
You see that when the Nazis came up,
how many
doesn't matter, but everybody was involved.
People.
Everybody was involved. Everybody was involved. It
People.
says the whole land was one language and one purpose.
Yeah.
When the Nazis came up, so you see people did something, didn't do something. In the end, it was a world war, because it can't be that the evil will, even if it's against Hashem's will, it's not going to remain forever. So what exactly, why does Hashem have to intervene? By nature, meaning by nature of how He set up the world, there are people who are good and they will fight this, if it's something that's evil. Secondly, מי זה אמר ותהי השם לא ציווה? גם מה היה מחשבותם לעשות מגדל וראשו בשמיים שגוז הטומאה? What's the whole thing of making a tower that stretches up to heaven? What are they talking about? Obviously it's a metaphor. Right? This is a place where the Torah is saying they use the metaphor. A tower and its top in the sky is a metaphor. The question is a metaphor for what? I'm not saying the Torah is giving a metaphor. The Torah is reporting the metaphor that they used. So what does this metaphor mean? So in the writings of the Arizal, כתב בעניין דור הפלגה שכוונתם היה להמשיך להם השפעה טובה בהכרח. Says that their purpose was to ensure that they would receive what they wanted from heaven. They would force Hashem's hand. Where's another tower that was built? It fell because of the exact same reason. There's another place called that the first temple, the one that fell for exactly this reason, was built like it had a spire in the front, and it had a narrow part in the front that went up 60 amot, and then behind it was a building. So it had a tower in the front. That was the Heichal, the Ulam back then. Why did it fall? Because, says Yirmiyahu, they tried to force Hashem's hand. What does it mean to force Hashem's hand? Hashem, I have you by the beard. I've got you. How do I got you? Because I bring korbanos every day. I bring the tamid every day. I bring the daily sacrifices just as you prescribed. So guess what?
You're stuck with me.
You're stuck. You have no more free will because you set up the system. What do you want from me? So says importantly is that you can do avodah zarah with Hashem also.
It's commercialization.
It's mechanization.
Mechanization.
When I think that I have a Kadosh Baruch Hu as some kind of algorithm, Hashem is an algorithm. What is that? It's like science. Science also. Science is smart enough, at least to say certain things we don't know yet how they work. We're not sure how it works. The most important science in that respect is medicine. Every doctor who's worth anything will tell you medicine is not an exact science. We don't know what we're doing. We know a little bit about what we're doing. We're trying. We don't really know how to cure things. We don't really know how to fix things. But we get some results. But we don't have an algorithm down. We don't know 100% what to do. We try. So that's okay. But the moment that you come and you say, and the picture that people had definitely back then, meaning society had matured to a point. And the idea is that it usually matures around the middle of the millennium. Meaning this was the second millennium. And they were talking about after Noach.
1600 years after.
So Noach was 1656. This whole thing happened in around 1890. 1900, not sure exactly what the date is.
Avram was 1948.
Yeah. He was the year 1940. But Avram was already a 40-something-year-old during the Tower of Babel.
Okay.
So it's around 1900. So society matures to a certain point, and it thinks it knows everything. And the second half of the millennium,
where was Avram during this whole story?
He was there. He was there. One of the explanations of what it means that Misham Yatza Shu, which are Hashem's emissaries, how they work, and because it's cyclical and it's constant, and you can figure it out, and you can make the calculations as well as they could, we know how the world is going to function from now until the end of time. All we have to do now is time our moments. Right? We have a way. We have a yeah, exactly.
Okay, and what would they do with this information? Let's assume that they know. Okay, they know. Good.
Now you have a completely different picture. Meaning unity will now be follow my rule book. Okay?
But what's the rule book?
Probably astrology.
But
probably astrology. What does it mean? That even if you had a concept of Hashem before, You completely changed it.
So you're
Instead-
nullifying it because you have a
because,
plan?
right. Because you have a rule book,
Oh.
you can't relate to God anymore as at least as free as you are. But, by the way, it goes together with understanding that people are not free also. Meaning their understanding was just as much as I can control God, people are also controllable. So that was the era of the tremendous empires, where a human life was absolutely worth nothing.
Still in
That's what
some
they
parts
say.
of the
That's what the
world.
Medrash says. That when they were building this tower, they were more upset if a stone broke, if a stone fell down from the tower, than if a person fell down.
Yeah.
Because the person we know that people fall down. We also know that stones fall down. That's also true. But people, not worth anything. You can't put a person and make him stay there and not move. But a stone, you can do something.
Am I allowed to ask a provocative question?
Mm.
You may not like this question. You said that the people in the times of the base of Mikdash, as long as we're doing the sacrifices, they don't get whatever we want, right? What's the difference between that and saying, I'm going to go to the Rebbe and ask the Rebbe for a bracha, and then everything will be just fine, because as soon as I get a bracha from the Rebbe, then Hashem has to do whatever the Rebbe asks him to do.
First of all, you don't know if the
Serious
Rebbe is going to answer.
question.
First of all, you don't know if the Rebbe is going to answer. You don't know what he's going to say. Secondly, even if you think that because the Rebbe said, then Hashem can't do what he wants, then you're in trouble.
That's a chilul.
You're in a problem.
That's what you ask.
The Rebbe
Yeah,
makes a gzera.
Yeah, okay.
And Hashem usually feels bound by that because he loves this person. But he's not bound by a law. It's not like he has to.
And there are plenty of people who looked upon the Rebbe as an ATM machine. You have problems, write to Rebbe, Rebbe give you a bracha, and everything will be okay. Full stop. Nothing to talk about, nothing to think about.
That you should have complete trust that Hashem really loves the Rebbe and he'll do what the Rebbe says. It shouldn't be differently. I don't think you should feel any other way. But after the fact, if it didn't turn out the way you wanted, I haven't heard of a Jew who lost his faith because of that.
Okay.
So something inside tells us that yes, on the one hand we have this notion that there should be complete trust and confidence that whatever the Rebbe said will happen. On the other hand, if it doesn't happen, people didn't lose their faith.
So did they lose their faith in the first base of Mikdash because Hashem didn't do what they wanted?
Yes, that's why Hashem destroyed it. Because he said that this is not what I meant when I said you should have a house to worship me. This is not called worshiping. This is called mechanizing me. This is called making me into an algorithm. That's not what I want. Bikesh Hashem lo ish kilvavot. That's one of the main psukim that David HaMelech says. That the whole purpose of building the base of Mikdash is to meet Hashem face to face, and not to make it into some kind of automaton. You stick your card in, you put the numbers in, you get money out. That was the big issue with where was this very pronounced in the last 20 years. In America, there's a group of people who are serial killers of faith. Serial killers. What do? They every few years they invent some kind of new great spiritual discovery, and each time they call it something else. It's the same group of people. I know. I can show you their website. They switch around a little because it can't look exactly the same. There's one guy who's especially instrumental in this whole thing, and what they want to teach people is that you can have everything you want. You just have to do this and this and this. And it's all spiritual, and it's all really feels really touchy, goody, like it's all new age stuff. And they're serial killers of the faith. So many people got involved in this. The last incarnation that I remember was 10 years ago. It was called The Secret. That's what they called it. It was everywhere because they have to do it right. So this thing called The Secret, it sold, I don't know, 1 million copies, 2 million copies, 3 million. It was all based on some old book that they dug up from the 1890s about the power of the subconscious mind, whatever. It was a bunch of nonsense. So they're basically built on the same idea. The universe,
I never heard of it.
yeah, the universe and Hashem are an ATM machine. If you put the right things in, you'll get it. You'll get what you want now. Always. And if it didn't, just do it again. And why is that the serial killer of faith? Because faith is based on the fact that I do that. I ask Hashem to give me what I want. But I also understand how to take no for an answer. I also understand that in the end, it's a relationship. It's not a machine. It's like what we call a human relationship. Sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes it's more than I wanted. But it's much more complex than pushing some buttons. Okay. So says Rav Chaim Vital that the Arizal taught that what they were doing was they were trying to make the Hashem into an automaton. They were trying to take what they wanted by force, and that there would be no say on the other side. How were they going to do this? So very simply, he says, "B'shimush hashemot, b'koach shimush hashemot." They were going to use holy names to do this. Holy names. What's today's holy name? Not in Yiddishkeit.
Oh,
In the world. What's the holy name today?
money.
Okay, money is not bad. What's like a real name that you can use and you can build anything you want?
Debt.
ACGT. Why ACGT?
What's that?
What does that stand for? You should know. I don't know what this. Those are the four alleles. I don't know what they're called. I have the wrong name.
So
In the genes are built out of four molecules,
Oh yeah, I remember reading about this.
and sometimes they're in a double helix, like in a human
The
being.
building
Sometimes
blocks of
they're the building blocks of all life.
creation.
So if you know how to manipulate these four letters, you can build anything you want. Somebody has a sickness, you don't have to ask Hashem. You change the lettering. So it might work, it might not. I don't know. But the idea that this is how it works.
Sefer
Sefer Refuah.
Right, Sefer Refuot. Also, by the way, the fact that Chizkiyahu had something like that, I guess the medicine there was just too good. It really worked every time. So people began to believe the world is just a machine. And if I figured out how it works, so that's it. But the whole point of the world was to create a relationship. So if I want to create a relationship, I can't build it on a machine type of relationship. That's not a relationship. Okay. So they used holy names. Af im lo hayu tovim. So there's an incredible science fiction, which is not really science fiction. They call it, I don't remember what they call it. It's like somebody writes an alternate history of the world based on some discovery that really never happened. So I read one like
Most
this.
religions.
One of the best science
Most
fiction
cults.
writers. But they hear it's science fiction. He tells you it's science fiction. So I can't remember his name. I have it at home. He wrote an alternate history of what happened from Victorian England and on. Because they discovered, what did they discover? The age-old recipe the Jews have to make things come to life. Where did they discover it from? From the story about the golem. What did he do? What did the Maharal supposedly do? He stuck a name, a klaf. He had a parchment that he wrote some names on, not Hashem's names, no, it wasn't Yud Kei Vav Kei. He wrote some names on, and he stuck it into the piece of clay, and that brought it to life. So the whole history of the steam era changes because instead of building things out of steam power and so on, they suddenly realize that to animate something you don't need steam power. All you need is a parchment that the Jews write. So the universities fill up with people studying ancient Jewish texts and taking out names and discovering new names and what they can do. So there's a name that makes you cook. There's a name that makes you baker. There's a name that makes you make a little clay figure. It's not even it doesn't have to be like a person. It's like a machine. It's like a machine. It has two arms, whatever, and it knows how to cook. It knows how to do this. There's something that you wanted to deliver a message somewhere. So there's the regular parchment, and you add another parchment, which is a certain encryption of the address you wanted to go to into Hebrew. And he writes the whole history of the world that's based on this incredible discovery And now we have clay animated by parchment and letters. And it's very interesting that he doesn't say, oh, this is a vindication, it means that the Torah is true and you have to do mitzvahs, nothing like that. It's just this was ancient knowledge that the Jews had. They'll take it and use it, and it just becomes a part of the world. Nobody ever says it's Jewish. They just say this is something that has always existed.
Something
it
that
works,
works.
and that's it. And it's very, very entertaining. And he has a twist at the end, which is very beautiful, about is there a parchment that can make free will? That somebody discovers that parchment, and what happens to the first machine? Basically, it's also a statement about our machines, which are coming close to having something that looks like free will. But it's very entertaining, this whole idea. So it's the same idea as this, that there's names, and the names can make things happen, and there's no choice. It's not like
Well, Yoshki Ponderax did that.
and what?
Yoshki Ponderax did that.
All the Mekubalim do that. Except what do the Mekubalim do? They say this is tried and tested. It's very scary. They always say this. It's gone through the empirical shita, the empirical method of figuring out whether this works or not. They make a kamea, they make a parchment with the names, and they try it. If it works, this works for it. And that's how they write. Said of it, still they understand that this is only a vessel for the blessing. That's why the first mimer here is all about making vessels for blessings. You have to understand that still it's a different frame of mind. In the same way that I go to work, I don't think it's mechanistic. I don't think that because I'm gonna work, so automatically I'm gonna get all I need. I know that it's a process. It's very difficult. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But I make my ishtabus, I make the vessel. The important thing according to Torah is to make the vessel with true things, not to cheat, not to lie, not to work on Shabbos, not this, not that. Then you make the right vessel. Like the story that you published about your parents' store.
Sure.
So we'll get to more of this tomorrow.
Now we have